Hi, everybody. Good evening and welcome back to the show. Another episode on Behind the Scenes of Health with Dr. Ron. And on today's episode, we have an interesting guest in the studio by name Aderele. So, like I usually do, I'll just leave him to introduce himself. So, over to you. So, could you, give us a little bit about your background, pharmacy, and how you got into health informatics?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Ron, for inviting me, and I'm most pleased to be here. A little bit about myself. I'm Adekoya Adenrele. I'm a pharmacist. I schooled at the University of Lagos. I graduated in 2019, 2020, thereabout. Then I worked as a pharmacist for a bit, and during the process of working as a pharmacist, I started to identify some gaps in the healthcare industry, and to fill those gaps, I
Yeah.
started to do some research into things that I could do to put me in really good positions where I can step up and fill up these roles, and that was how I somehow stumbled upon health informatics. And prior to that, I've had conversations with people. It's one of the things that comes with interacting with people here, and I started to notice that in the world of today, you need some level of digital skills. So I started to pick up data
Okay.
science on the side. Doing a lot of self development and courses. So when health informatics came up on my radar, it felt like the perfect opportunity for me to actually really get into digital health. Where even as at the point where I started applying for health informatics, I'm not sure I was completely in sync with what it meant, or what, there is just so much you can find on the internet. When you get into it is when the real work starts. So yeah, it was just very interesting. And yeah, so far it's been something that's given me that chance to actually grow and to continue to see those gaps that I said I needed to fill, that I could
Yeah.
actually see that there are actually people on the same path with me who are also
Mhm.
been where we have our visions aligned, and they're doing really really interesting stuff. So it's really really good time for digital health, and that's just a little brief about my journey into health informatics.
Yeah. Oh, that's quite interesting. I mean, I also did health informatics, right? And a lot of us really, it looks very vague until you now get in there, you start making sense of the whole, thing. So, looking at your academic journey now, coming from a healthcare background, pharmacy, and moving into health informatics, how was that transition like for you?
Um, to be honest, I would say coming from the healthcare background, I think you would probably testify to this. Yeah, you probably have it slightly easy moving into any other field where, because you've gone through a lot of rigor, a lot of you've been drilled basically, and you find it really easy
Yeah.
to adapt to a lot of situations. So for me, it was a very interesting journey. Not anything like I was used to, but it was definitely, I found it quite easy to adapt, and also being something that, like I said, I'm quite passionate about. And there was a deep rooted cause for me to actually want to do this. So I found it very interesting. I learned so much. Being on the other side of healthcare, not being in the front lines. Now you're more of playing behind the scenes, seeing how things should
Yeah.
be, more like a little bit of information governance, a little bit of technology, and the kind of what are these things called, the things you need to consider, the ethical fronts, the legal fronts. So
Mhm.
all
Mhm.
of these things are actually very interesting. So the transition has been a complete opposite to what I was used to. Now we're not talking about chemical structures, we're not talking about active ingredients, we're talking about, okay, how can we improve healthcare? How can it be a lot more efficient? So it's been very interesting for me, and it's the transition has, I would say, somewhat smooth, but then it was also filled with challenges also, because you need to do a lot of adapting. So yeah, I would say it's been balanced. Let me just put it that way.
Okay, that's cool. Now, let me just take you back a bit now. You said the transition was not that difficult, really. So there's this common misconception that before you move into health tech, you must know how to code, you must know how to, all those techie things. So from your own background, did you have that prior to getting into health informatics or just gotten there?
So I would say, if I'm being honest with you, I've had a little bit of self-learning in terms of coding, but I would
Mhm.
not say it has played a major role in my transition into the technical. But there are a lot of technical roles in a lot of roles in tech or health tech
Yeah,
that does not require coding. It's not a prerequisite. I know a lot of people that have done excellently well over the years in health informatics and in other phases of healthcare without any technical skills. It's
yeah,
just more of where you fit in and so it's more of identifying the skill gaps, what you would need to succeed, where you're trying to get into, and pretty much getting yourself ready for that. So for someone who's looking to, go into data science, for example, you don't need any any prophet to tell you that, yeah, at some point you'd need to code, or you'd need to
yeah,
learn some sort of languages. But for health informatics, it's more of, I think health data science it comes under health informatics. It's more of a
yeah.
broad aspect where you cover a whole lot of things, and it's quite versatile. So under that, you can now decide to specialize on what you really want to do. So technical skills could be a plus, to be honest, in terms of marketability, but as a
Hmm.
prerequisite, I don't think it's necessary. And I also know people who have, some of my friends have gone into health data science off a pharmacy background without any
Yeah,
technical skills, and they've learned on the job. So I would say that shouldn't put anybody away in terms of getting into it. For some roles, you wouldn't need it. For some roles where you need it, you can always learn on the job.
yeah. And I think this is what really sort of holds a lot of people back because they just feel there's a lot of technical stuff they need to, understand before they start taking this, program or
Yeah.
courses around health informatics and all of that. Most of the time I say no, it's not really a prerequisite, like you said. So it's an added advantage if you have it, but it's not a must really. So, I mean, looking at your studies now in the UK now, how would you say was it challenging? Because coming from Niger to a different country with its own differences in learning and all of that. So how did you find that balance?
So it was quite challenging, to be honest with you. It's not like anything I was used to. So many things would come into play. So many things you'd need to consider in terms of the strict plagiarism regulation. That was a it's a rude awakening. The level of intentionality you have to put into your work, and
Yeah.
also it was a lot more research intensive. A lot of reading was involved, going through levels of articles that I've never even imagined I'd find myself doing. But one thing that really plays a key role is making use of the resources you're provided with. Being a
Hmm.
master's level learning, you're not expected to be spoon fed. You need to do a lot of things for yourself. So you just have to, decide for yourself that, okay, this is what I want to achieve, and these are the things I really need to do to put those things in place. So for me, it was more of reading a lot of things beforehand, some ready materials that the school provided, and that was very helpful. Trying to understand what was expected. There is for you to really excel, you really need to know what you're trying to achieve. You can't just wing it at all points in time. When you fully understand you need to understand the rules before you can even break them. That's a popular saying here.
Yeah.
So you really need to understand what you are trying to achieve before you cannot give it your own personal touch on how you want to achieve it. So that was just what I was able to get beforehand, and also the transition. And in terms of differences, yeah, it was completely different. I went from writing pharmacognosy lab manuals and pharmchem manuals to actually doing a lot of critical analysis and critical
Yep.
thinking, exploring different angles of a particular topic. You think it should be straightforward, but the more you read, the more you start to realize that, yes, there are other points of views that you really need to consider. And the more you start to get used to that, no one even needs to tell you sometimes that even when you cannot find a different point of view, you know it exists somewhere, because this just can't be all that is to this particular
Exactly.
topic. So you start to open up your mind, and you can tell within yourself that you're growing. You can tell that, like, there are so many things that are being added to your skill sets, and it's not even intentional. These are just things that are passively, coming up upon you, and you just find yourself doing certain things, and you're like, oh yeah, I actually can't do that. I never thought I could. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a huge difference in realities, but eventually it's something that I believe, when done with so much intentionality, like I said earlier, it's definitely achievable, and it's something that I think people would find very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for that, really. Then I know you also have some experience with this HDRK. Is it HDRUK internship? I hope I got that
Yes,
right.
yes,
So
HDR UK.
how did that come about?
So one of the things I did before I started my master's in Swansea University was I looked up LinkedIn, people that were currently doing what I was getting into, even though I left it a little too late after I had secured an admission.
Okay.
So one of the people I spoke to, Anthony, very great guy. He was really helpful even before I got into the course. He sort of sets the level of expectation, what I would need to do, and
Yeah.
that gave me a clear understanding of what I was really getting into. So along the line, he mentioned something about the internship. I was still in Nigeria then. I didn't really understand what it was about, but I kept it at the back of my mind that, yeah, this is definitely something I should, you know, prepare myself for on the long run.
Well,
So when the time came and I started to, the more I got into it, I understood what it was, and I knew this was definitely something I should try. And it's a very wonderful platform for people like us, because it gives us sort of a level playing ground. When people who are competent get opportunity, it's a different ballgame entirely. So it's a very important program in terms of diversity and inclusion. So
mhm.
it's something that gives people of Black heritage a chance to actually get into, because if you look at the top level roles, a lot of times you would hardly
Yeah,
find Black people in these rooms, and this is something that our internship is trying to eliminate
achieve.
by giving people who deserve the opportunity. And I believe a lot of us actually do. We've worked so hard to be in places where we are today. We just need one extra opportunity, and this is what that internship is really all about: connecting competent people with the available opportunities. So I would say, yeah, it's definitely something worth looking out for people who are interested in data. And it's, even if you're not currently doing data, it's something you can get into. I know some people in my technical challenge group didn't have any experience with data, and they got into the internship.
Wow.
They're interested enough.
Interesting.
Yeah, but it depends on the organization that reaches out to you anyway, because there are a couple of interviews you need to do. So yeah, it's a fantastic opportunity, and I had a great experience, to be honest. Like, the kind of things I was able to achieve within my internship
Hmm.
was it was quite good, and also the kind of confidence it instills upon you. You can actually be out there rubbing shoulders with anybody because you're
Yeah.
competent. So these are the things that the internship is really all about.
Getting
Or is
into
this
the internship, was it difficult?
It's competitive, I can tell you that. It's competitive, and that is where you would need to find a way to sell yourself and tell your story. So I remember while I was applying, there were like 4 segments where you get to answer like short questions. So
Oh,
for me,
wow.
I took that as a point where I could, pitch myself and really say something about myself. And the CV, I at that point, I'm not sure my CV was great, to be honest. Like, now looking back, you know, looking back now, he probably would do. It was just all right to, get me in. But
Yeah.
I did a couple of interviews. And at the time when those interviews came, I did one with Swansea University. And now this would also highlight the differences between organizations. I remember when I did the interview with Swansea University, I got a feedback saying it was awesome. I did really well, probably like the preferred candidate. But one of the questions they asked me was, do I have any experience using R? And the way I responded was, truly, yeah. I was more of a Python guy. I wasn't
Yeah.
really anything I was conversant with. But I said, no, at this moment, but we've still got a couple of weeks or months before the internship really starts. I'm willing to, get on top of it and learn. I'm a quick learner. And with the current tools we have today, you can learn pretty much any day. There's Stack Overflow there for you when you run into trouble. Go
GitHub
there,
and the rest.
or just eat up your friends doing it. That, yo, bro, what do you think? This is what I'm struggling with, which is truly how all of us try to navigate at that point in our profession. So, but they were like, they prefer someone with experience already in our. Well, that's fine,
In our
but I'm guessing there was some level of maybe positive feedback of the interview. I'm guessing there is this communication back and forth between the host organizations and the chief organization, which is Health Data Research UK. And
yeah.
towards the end of the internship, I got an interview with Health Data Research UK itself, and I attended the
Oh,
interview, and it was great. And the next morning, I got a call saying if I would like to come on board. I'm like, what do you mean if I'd like to come on board? Sign me up, please. So yeah, then I did. It was amazing 8 weeks. I worked remotely all through it, and it
okay.
was just really good. And I worked on an interesting project where I did the analysis of a survey on the level of data science being taught to medical students across the UK. So, and I
Okay.
had some recommendations that would be implemented in changing the curriculum for the medical school in the UK to involve more
Hmm.
data science. So it's definitely something that has, created real value. And looking back, for like a few years' time, and when the curriculum does change, it's going to be as a result of the work that
The work
myself
you
and
did
some other
now.
people are. Yes, yes. So it's, and I remember having my presentation at the Cumberland Lodge to all of the deans of the medical schools in the UK, and it was definitely something they were working towards, because there were some world leaders in terms of health data science in the room, and they
Hmm.
also they had their talks similar to what I was talking about and what my research was validating. So it was very, very interesting to see how that played out. So definitely, it was something that it's something I would encourage anybody to really do. To be honest, you never know if you're going to get into it or not. You just have to try.
Try,
At some
yeah.
point, I think I was going to get into it, but like I said, the person that mentioned it to me, Tony, also did it, and you also had fantastic experiences. So it's something that shouldn't be kept. We should put it out there for people who are interested in doing similar things. There is an opportunity out there. There always will be.
Yeah. Was this before you finished school or in the middle of school?
It was the middle of school, I think, just before my dissertation, actually.
Okay.
So
And how did you
yeah,
manage that? Because I know health informatics is very intensive.
it is intensive, to be honest. But the good thing is, I'd done the bulk of my coursework, then I turned them in. So I just had my dissertation left. And for some reason, my ethical approval took forever. So I had some free time. I wasn't really
Okay.
doing much. I've been working on my literature review, but knowing myself, I'd rather just start the whole work when shit hits the roof. So I just prefer to do it that way. That was my
Those
style.
who work under pressure, Abi.
That's honestly, that's it. Like, I would prefer to do it that way. So I just took my time, and I did the internship, but I had to do it part time because of the restrictions around
Visa.
schooling and working here. So yeah, I had to err on the side of caution and on the side of the law. So um, it was pretty easy balancing it, and the work was self-paced, and they trusted me enough to do my thing. There wasn't micromanaging. There were just
Yeah.
regular meetings where I would tell them what I'd been working on, and I tried to submit my final report in advance for correction,
Wow.
just in case they
Yeah.
had anything they needed to add to it. And it would come back sometimes and saying, yeah, maybe a little bit, the visualizations could be maybe bigger, or they could be smaller, all those little things, just to tie up
Changes.
all loose
Yeah.
ends there. Yeah, and it was quite seamless, to be honest, and there were definitely our recommendations, and those things went a long way in terms of you know making me realize that, yeah, it's been a long way. Like, we've all done so much to get to this place, and we truly deserve to be here, because the works we've done, they get appreciated anywhere you look. So I mean, so
Hmm.
much more to still be done. There's just so much more to continue to do. So yeah.
Yeah, it never really ends. One
No.
interesting thing was when you mentioned that, you spoke to Tony. Yeah, he sort of, gave you a lowdown or things to expect. I think that's a good thing, having people who have like gone ahead of you, telling you learning from their mistakes or some sort of mentorship, really. I think it makes a lot of sense, really.
Yeah, yeah,
Where
it
did you
does.
find Anthony?
On LinkedIn. On LinkedIn.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I was, and he was so friendly. Like, he doesn't know me from anywhere. He doesn't have to interact with me, but you could tell from the way he responded that this is someone who is very enthusiastic about helping people. And I try my best to be that same person for anyone that I come across in terms of people who want to get on this journey. It's just something I think I owe to them because someone has done that for me. So it's only right that even not just for that reason, it's just how I think generally how Nigerians are. We are always happy to help people that come after us. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Actually, Tony was my classmate too, so I can attest to
Oh,
to
great
him
guy,
being
great guy.
a great guy. Yeah. So, and I think I've even had an episode with him where he also talked about his journey. Now, looking at where you are now, are you going back to clinical practice anytime soon, or?
That's $1 million question, bro. I guess I'm just figuring it out as the day comes by. The opportunities are definitely out there, and the way I kind of see it is, actually, I'm trying to position myself in a way where there are really no restrictions because I tend to have a lot of changes in interest really quickly. There is this new thing that I think I'll be really great at this. I've done so many things in my life, and I happen to try to do them well. So I want to definitely get back to the clinical part. I really do not know how that is going to work out. Working and balancing it with going back to school to do the clinical aspects to get a license to practice in the UK because it's a bit tricky for pharmacists, unlike doctors where it's
Oh wow,
slightly straightforward. Yeah, for pharmacists you need to almost do like another master's
wow.
to get a license to practice in the UK. So yeah, eventually I'll be getting back on the clinical side of things, and getting that license also opens up more doors in terms of some senior roles, in terms of information analyst or anywhere you want to look at a clinical information officer or anything here.
Yeah,
There are some high level roles that you need to be a practicing healthcare professional in the UK
pharmacist. Yeah, to take those
to get.
roles.
Yes, so definitely the options are open. I can't tell you for free that this is what I'll be doing in the next 20 years or 10 years, but I do know that for now, I'm really focused on building my experience and developing myself as the day comes.
Yeah, because for me, I mean, this is one of the common questions I get all the time. In fact, 2 days ago, I was on a call with somebody, and they're like, "You don't miss the clinics, or you don't miss the accident and the emergency." I was like, I don't know.
Do you, actually, I should ask you now, do you miss it? Do you think you will ever be going back
But
into the
honestly, I
clinical?
do sometimes, really. But like you said, you're trying to build yourself, sort of consolidate in this area before,
Yeah.
going back to the other side. Because I know a couple of persons who sort of do this side by side, maybe 3 days in the clinic, the other 2 days, maybe they are lecturing somewhere or they are working with
Oh,
a startup who is building one software or something. So, you know, that's the kind of thing I'm looking to,
to
but it takes a level of what do you call it now? I mean, you should have domain expertise in both areas to be able
yeah,
to do that effectively.
yeah,
So I think, like you said, it's more of building on this side because you've been doing this one for a long time now. So
yeah.
it's time to build on this side
True.
before trying to, combine the two. Now, looking at your journey from, Niger to this place, how stressful would you say was the process in terms of finding the school, doing your application, whole visa, the whole process really?
Honestly, it was pretty straightforward. Like I've heard
So you didn't
people
use
talk
an
about.
agent.
No, 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 no.
Okay.
Uh, I'm too hands-on to want to do that because I enjoy these things, doing it for myself and making this research. So I had like a list of schools, like maybe 25 schools thereabouts that was offering
Hmm.
courses around digital health, and I looked at different things, the rankings, the league rankings, QS rankings, cost rankings also, and I also looked at their fees because that was definitely something really important that we need to consider also. And yeah, when I was pretty sure that Swansea was one of my top choices, alongside I think UCL and a couple of other schools, then I put in an application with Swansea, and they were pretty fast in responding, and that was good service, if you ask me. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm sold. If you could respond that quickly, and that was how they literally just took me out of the school search thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I went to the school and I'm like, yeah, maybe next week I'm going to do maybe some other schools. And before I could know it, they had responded. So I'm like, maybe I should just go with them and not just go through the stress of applying anywhere else. And I looked at the modules, they were definitely in line with the kind of things that I would like to do anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
I stuck with them, and and I was in Jigawa actually when I applied
Oh, wow.
for this, because it took a while before I did my NYC after uni. So I was doing my NYC in Jigawa when I applied, and when I got back to
Oh,
Lagos, I just did the other processes, and it was pretty straightforward. It was quite fast, and I was just ready in time. So say I got back in
you just,
July, and by September I was all ready to move. So it was quite easy. But I know it's not always that easy, because I hear people talk about their journey sometimes, and I'm like, oh, tough luck.
yeah.
But that wasn't really the case for me. I got
So
quite
looking back
lucky.
at your Swansea experience, how would you rate it?
Swansea is a place after my heart, to be honest. It worked perfectly for me. Really quiet, and the people were quite nice. And I met fantastic people. The locals were very, very nice. I watched a couple of Swansea matches. I used to go to
Oh,
the
nice.
stadium to watch Swansea football. There is this Swansea Football Club. There is this the streets would never forget moment in Swansea Football Club, particularly with Michu back in the day, growing up while I was still in secondary school. Michu was
Yeah.
a very fantastic striker that we used to, make a lot of jokes about him. So being in Swansea, Michu was just always in my head. So I always had to watch a football match. The
Yeah.
likes of Nathan Bear and the other footballers there, Routledge. So it was just a thing of culture. I just had to do it. So I watched a couple of their matches. And the people were quite nice. The beachfronts too, very amazing. I used to
Yeah.
take walks and go out there to and the pubs. There were quite a number of really nice pubs that I would go out to drink with some of my friends, and yeah,
In High
it
Street,
was
right?
really what.
High Street.
I never used to get to. Okay, no, it was on Wine Street sometimes, but yeah, on
Okay.
High Street there were quite a couple of them to that I would go to, and we had a good time, to be honest. When it was time for me to leave, I honestly did not want to leave. I really enjoyed my stay in Swansea, and if I could do it all over again, I definitely will. And if I ever got a remote job sometime in the future, and I was looking for somewhere really quiet to move back to, I think I know
Swansea.
where I'm going. Swansea it is.
Swansea is a great place, really, but somehow I just think they don't have enough to retain the talents that come
Yeah,
out from the uni.
from there. Yeah,
So they keep
true,
losing a lot of people. Once
true.
people finish school, you see great people. Everybody's moving to England
And yeah,
or
yeah,
London, and because that's where everything is happening in terms of
yeah.
the good jobs and all of that, which is
I agree with
fine.
you. It's sad because they put in a lot of work to build these people up, and just servicing people for someone else to just take the most of the advantage of
Ab-
that air. But
Absolutely.
maybe sometime more investments into the economy could mean retaining more talents. Who knows? It's just a matter of time.
Right. Anyway, time we tell us that
Yeah.
one. So in terms of what do you call it now, job opportunities outlook. So what does it look like? You know, having coming from a pharmacy background, you finish MSc Health Informatics. What are the opportunities that are open to you in terms of being a pharmacist?
Okay, in terms of being, so one thing is for sure, yeah, the job market right now is as competitive as it probably has ever been.
Yeah.
With a lot of funding issues, jobs are being cut. Not a lot of people are really, a lot of companies are really struggling to recruit people. But regardless, the opportunities are there in terms of information analysts.
Okay.
Excuse me. They are quite a lot of roles in the NHS, which
Mhm.
I believe I had a chat recently with you about them, and those are quite a number of things people could look at in terms of job opportunities. But also, I think another thing that has been slept on is maybe the project management aspect of health informatics. You
Yep.
understand? Yeah, like the way health informatics is tailored, anything that has to do with healthcare technology, you probably find elements of um, health informatics there. So there are a lot of transferable skills across the
Mm-hmm.
would I say the broadband or across the spectrum of health informatics. So generally it just depends on where interest lies. It could be data analyst roles, it could be solutions architects, which is another thing that has been on my radar lately in terms of I had a chat with a couple of people working with AWS
Okay.
as solutions architects specifically for healthcare, and you would find that the bulk of the things they do is literally health informatics, and things that, you know, the trainings I've gone through, these are the things that they're literally practicing it. Yeah, it's very interesting to
Yeah.
see. So it's a lot of these things are not gaining so much prominence currently, but I think they are becoming much more obvious as the day goes by. And you could even find roles that are not even called what you'd expect them to call until you read the job descriptions and you say, "Wait, why are you calling it this? It should be something else." You know, you wouldn't find any job that says health informatician. You would hardly find anything like
Exactly.
that.
You won't.
You would have to check for the skills you have, where you think you'd fit in, because that is, you've been given the tools. You just have to find where to apply them, basically. So in terms of job opportunities, there are quite a lot of them. You'd always find them. You'd find roles like health training officers or health training. Clinical coding is also another aspect that
Yeah.
people could
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
look into from health informatics. So the opportunities are definitely there, but it now depends on you how you're able to upskill yourself to make yourself ready for these roles, because the opportunities are there truly, but it's also competitive. You're not the only one looking for the job. And if there's someone out there that offers slightly more than you do, if you were the person also employed, you probably go for that person
You
too.
think
So
exactly.
no hard feelings. You just have to, make sure that in the world of today, you're competent enough and you're competitive. Because you even find people from other fields, even trying to get into these roles with you. So, and they
Mm-hmm.
probably bring, breath of fresh air from where they're coming from. Maybe someone from a computer background, for example. Yeah, he offers more digital skills. So, what do you do? What do you offer as a pharmacist, as a doctor? That, how can you present yourself to have something that they don't? So it's just everybody leveraging on their skills, basically.
Yeah, that's cool. Then let me take you back a bit. Earlier on you talked about, having to develop yourself, a lot of reading. So were there
Yeah.
specific books or specific courses or specific websites that you spent time on to build yourself?
Yes, yes, yes. I have a running subscription on Data Camp. Yeah, and that's really helpful for me in terms of they have a wide array of data related courses, from SQL to R to Python, and even cloud computing. They have reasonable things on it here, but I also check out for a lot of things on YouTube, and there are a lot of websites out there that probably I'm not even remembering at this point. And there are also a couple of books too that I have on artificial intelligence on in healthcare, written
Okay.
by someone. I think it works. I can't remember his name right now. It's been a while I read the book. I can't even remember the title, but it was loaded with a lot of. I could communicate that with you eventually. Maybe after the call, I
Yeah,
could.
that's
I have
fine. Oh, I
the website.
appreciate that. Yeah.
So these are things, and another thing that really helps to develop is speaking to people. Never shying away from the opportunity to actually jump on calls, because that is where you get industry specific information that is not common knowledge. There are some things that you won't, there are jobs that people are not even advertising. There are roles that you probably don't even know what it is called until someone mentions it. And also, academia is also something that is also very interesting that people could look into. PhDs in fully funded PhDs in healthcare, and these
Hmm.
are things. There are a lot of funding opportunities currently, so these are things that people could do to continue to develop themselves. But yeah, for me, my go-to place before I do any other thing, if I have to
Yeah.
develop myself, especially in front of data, in terms of data, I go to health data camp first.
Data
And if it's
camp.
not there, yeah, then I probably go elsewhere. I enjoy really learning there. It's so simplified and it's very straight to the point. So yeah, it's quite helpful.
Yeah, taking note of that data camp, right? So after now, I think I'm gonna go check it out. I've never had time to really sit down and look at data camp per se. Thanks for mentioning that. So in terms of advice for your colleagues, pharmacists who might be watching, and other healthcare professionals? What would you tell them for people who are thinking of making this transition? Because a lot of people are scared, in quotes.
Yeah, I get that. One thing is for sure, there will be a million and one reasons to never do it, to be honest. Yeah, there are so many reasons to be comfortable in your or to feel relaxed in the comfort zone, but that's not really where things are happening. Nothing is really bubbling there. You really need to see things for yourself and go out there and see how people are, like would say, doings. There are a lot of doings out there that you really need to catch up on. You need to develop yourself and just make that switch. One thing is for sure, no one can ever take it away from you. It's yours. So, and
Mhm.
you only do it once. So, and every other thing from there is just personal development. So, if you're able to manage to get it through the line, you're definitely better off than you would be a year back. Now, I can say I have a master's degree in health informatics. Aside, and I meet people now and they are like, yeah, you've done a master's, you're a pharmacist, blah blah blah, health informatics. How old are you? And I tell them my age, and they're like, how? I'm like, well, it's
Is what
it's
it is.
it is what it is exactly. So it's just something. So I think people should really do it, and it's never too late. I've interacted with people across different, like in my class while we did the masters, were people way younger than I even was, and there were people older also. So just so you know that quite a number of people are actually beginning to realize the opportunities, young and old. So
Yeah.
what's the excuse really? Just get it done. And when you definitely do it, you're better off for it. You're definitely going to improve yourself. So that's just my advice. Just do it, to be honest.
Just do it,
Let's
right?
steal the let's steal the Nike saying. So yeah.
Then I used to tell people, we're like, what is this guy doing, self? I was like, anyway, last, if it doesn't work out, I'll sure come back to the hospital and continue what I was doing.
Uh, Honestly, and I always have that. But to be honest, I do have it at the back of my mind that, well, there is always rice at home, and rice being pharmacy. I can always go back to pharmacy. So
Absolutely.
and that is a very viable option because it's a prestigious profession. Being a doctor, being a pharmacist, anywhere in the world, you're able to
Mhm.
do well for yourself, and people do make a lot of money off that, and people also make a lot of impact in the world also. So there is that, and you can also decide to explore something else. So you've created options for yourself, basically, like
Yeah,
Dr. Ross said. So
exactly.
perfectly,
I
I
think
agree with you.
one final question before we round up, just conscious of time. So another thing people sort of get to experience when doing this sort of transition is you get people sort of looking down on you per se as what's this guy doing? But is he sure he knows what he's doing? Did you get that along your journey?
I probably did, but I wasn't paying attention to that, to be honest. The
Okay.
noise can just stay outside. Yeah. Like, why are you eating from outside of the club? You can't even get in. Stay outside. They just keep making that noise. And, for someone who is looking down on you and saying you don't know what you're doing, well, that's for them to decide. You understand? You're there doing the best thing you think is there for you to do for yourself. And it really shouldn't matter what anybody has to say because they wouldn't do these things for you. They wouldn't develop you for you. It's your responsibility. It's just like people would say a job is a job as long as it pays your bills. So it really
Yeah.
doesn't matter what people are saying about your job. You're the one who knows the reason why you're doing it. So I would say, yeah, do you and enjoy it while you're doing it, to be honest, because you could start to do it and fall through the cracks along the way. But as long as you try to enjoy it, you try to enjoy the journey and not just the results. You're enjoying the process. I don't really think what people would say would matter. And even if it does matter, just tap yourself on the shoulder on some days that, yeah, it does matter, but I'm still going to finish anyway. So I think
Yeah.
you will find eventually with that.
I think then I also sort of experienced it, but now everybody's now sort of coming around. Okay, what's the
Yeah,
way?
jumping on the
How,
bandwagon.
how do we do it now? Where are the tips? Where are the tricks? Where do we go to and all of that? Because like you
Yeah,
said, everybody's eye is now sort of opening to the
yeah.
numerous opportunities that sort of exist. So that's interesting to know. Just sort of putting it out there because some people who might be thinking of making the same transition, they are going to hear all sorts of things. But I mean, if you're convinced that this is really what you want to do, then like you said, just do it. You know,
Yep.
last, if it doesn't work, you come back to square one and
And that's the beauty of it.
strategize. Is it?
Yep. So and that's the beauty of it. Yeah, there is a backup, a solid backup. In fact, it's too good to be called a backup if we're being honest. So it's more of a building block. You're just building on top of it, and yeah, if the block doesn't want to really go up, then well, you just stay in the bungalow.
But it has to grow anyway. It can't be in the
Yeah,
bungalow. It has to grow.
it has to. It really has to. Yeah, I agree with
It
you.
has to grow. All right. Thank you so much, Aderele, for sharing your insights with us on your
Yeah,
journey, your the field of health informatics, coming from a pharmacy background, and I believe people are sort of I've learned one or two things from this interview or session that we just had, and hopefully, I hope people can reach out to you. Well,
yeah.
you said
I'm
you're happy
always
to pay it forward, so
Yeah, I am. So
that's fine. So he's on LinkedIn, he's on is it Twitter or X now? X, formerly Twitter. So you guys can send him a DM, and he's happy to answer. And when he shares those resources, I'll also put it on my platform so that you guys can also sort of get a feel of those platforms and how to use them. So thank you
yeah,
once again for coming, and I'll
no
see you guys
worries.
in the next episode. Bye.
All right. Thank